It's 6 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order and want to welcome our guests here tonight from the school.
Sorry.
Oh, we're going to move some chairs around.
Yes, sir.
Can I see? You may.
I think I probably have seen it before.
I know.
But I always get the leg.
Always.
No matter where I am.
It's on. Is it on?
How do we get that on?
I think you just hit, he has to,
Oh,
you just hit.
oh,
just
oh.
hit- Yeah, just hit the
I
power.
thought we had to do something
It's okay.
more than that.
So we have representatives from the school tonight. They're going to do a presentation on the proposal for the new school, which will be coming up to town meeting January 31st at 10 o'clock. It's a Saturday.
10 a.m.
That's where we're supposed to.
a.m.
10 a.m. Yeah. Yes.
Just to be clear.
Should we hold questions to the,
Yeah,
till it's over?
yes, if you would, yeah, that'd be helpful, I think, helpful for us.
I'm gonna try this. I'm assuming we don't want Netflix.
Yeah.
HDMI 1.
Does Branson get
That
stuff
sounded
on?
familiar, so.
Maybe if you wouldn't mind
We'll
introducing
do that,
yourself for
yep.
people on the committee and maybe who are watching who might not know.
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm Gary Keith. I'm town resident chair of the school building committee.
Thanks, Ben.
Sean Burke, with PMA Consultants, we're the owner's project manager for the
Hi,
project.
Sean.
Mitch Miller, PMA Consultants.
Hi.
Mark Bottle, superintendent of schools, and failing at technology.
It's weird, we're getting his signal on our end, so we are getting the picture.
Oh, you're getting it over there?
Yep, so we are getting it, because that's usually how it is. Splits. Is it all plugged in? Maybe just plug it in maybe one more time.
A reboot.
Yeah, the old IT. Did you plug
Yeah.
it in?
Did you
reboot it? Is it turned on?
I saw it for a brief second when we were turning it on.
It may do it. Oh, yeah.
That's
Do you
more.
remote?
It should just be an HDMI. That's what he has plugged in.
I can do screen sharing.
We could.
Would it just be TV?
Do me a favor, just hit the laptop, just to get, she's.
And it's hardwired right in there, too.
You guys got it? Want to?
Maybe, I'm texting with her right now.
We can try one of their computers if you want to try the laptop, see if the PC makes any difference.
Sure.
Something, I mean, we're getting that picture.
No, it's not.
Got another one?
Us.
Yeah.
On our
You
laptop.
got one, if that doesn't work, I got one.
Is that a iPad?
I got an iPad too, but it's the wrong connector.
It's got, it might have a
What
two.
connector do you need?
I think computer would be easier.
Never fails, right?
Working Thursday, fine, so.
Try that.
That
Oh.
Sorry, I like that. Showing something.
Oh, wait, now that was on your iPad before. That's just the iPad home screen.
So if you go, can you,
Because he's showing,
oh, so that is the tablet.
Yeah.
So then I think if you just,
Can you go down to the,
no, on the tablet, is it a touch screen where you,
it's,
he has his presentation up. It's not
yeah,
yet.
that's, we did a dry run earlier, and that's all we did was when you hit power, it just popped right on.
I don't mind plugging in my computer through the
Let's-
HDMI.
Yeah, let's try it.
Give it a try.
I think I just need, we grab the top one from
Yep.
me. Is it long?
yep,
Oh,
long.
keep going.
You can be in our advancer too, Mitch, if it works.
Let's see if it works.
Just be careful.
There we go.
There you
It's
go.
over your feet.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you're on Mitch's at this point?
Yes.
You're on Mitch's?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no worries.
A for effort.
So you're on the, are you on the web,
It's just a PDF.
okay.
All right, are we ready?
I think we are.
All right, again, thank you for the opportunity for us to present tonight, and joked with Mo on the way in. I think he's ready to give the presentation himself. He's seen most of this so many times, but that's fine too.
Okay, I learn something every time.
Well, and we've got, we continue to refine, and we've got, some things that we've honed in specifically for the Finance Committee to talk about as well. And again, as Mo indicates, if you wouldn't mind, I know you're going to have a ton of questions. We're happy to answer all of them for as long as it takes, but we'd like to just tab through the slides and present the information, and then we'll come back to anything that you want to review further. Not going to run through the whole roster, but 26 voting members. Cheryl has done a nice job over the duration representing the Finance Committee, but also have to acknowledge Mary has been a participant as well as David as well on the committee. It's a big committee. 26 voting members is a big committee, and the process is that the committee members are appointed by the superintendent and then affirmed by the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They've admitted to us that it's a big committee compared to other communities, but we use the same philosophy with the middle senior high school. We think it worked in terms of people and individuals and roles and responsibilities that have a vested interest in the building and operation of a school, that they should have a seat at the table. And that's the way we've structured this. This is really our headline slide, and most of this you probably know already, but kindergarten through 6th grade, we'll talk about how we got there as part of the presentation, located at the Roselle site, and we'll talk about that. An design enrollment of 1,075 students, and we'll talk about the enrollment growth that's being projected. What's important about that number, though, is that is a number coming from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Before the process really even kicked off with the school building committee, there were several meetings where we talked about the enrollment projections, and the Massachusetts School Building Authority looked at our data. They then went back and gave us this number, the 1,075, and that is not an opening day number. That's a projection out 20, 30 years. But with the growth that we're seeing in town and that they are projecting in our town, that's the number that they wanted to build to. They wanted us to build to. So what's important in this is that once we agree to go into the MSBA program, and that's what it is, we play by their rules, and that's the rule. So it limited us to what design options that the school building committee had to look at. We basically had 4 choices. The school is being built under the banner of the Roselle McDonald School. So we have to look at a grade 1 through 3 option. That's a homework exercise they make us go through. If we were to submit that, they would reject it. But nonetheless, we have to go through that process. The other option was pre-K to 6. So everything under all 3 schools. The other option was pre-K to 4. So everything at Spring Street and Roselle and 1 grade out of Howard. And then the other option was K through 6, which is what we ended up with. And we'll talk about the reasons why the school building committee ended up with that. I want to take us back just a little bit, though, in time, back to 2022, when this process started. So it starts with the school committee submitting statements of interest, and that was done in April of 2022. That process goes from the school committee to the Board of Selectmen for a vote. Those documents were submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority with the signature of Dave Gagne as town administrator, school committee chair at the time, and the school superintendent. Admittedly, the three Board of Selectmen who voted to submit those statements of interest are not in office any longer, just the timing of when those documents were submitted. When the MSBA reviewed that, and we'll talk about consolidations, they came back and said, yes, these look good, but we want you to also consider Howard School as part of your deliberations. We want a separate state of interest submitted for Howard School. Same process. School committee, Board of Selectmen vote, same signatures. Those were submitted that document was submitted in March of 2023. MSBA subsequently approved the establishment of the school building committee in June 2023, and we've been meeting since then. My point in all that is that when the school building committee started, we were given this assignment based on those statement of interest that the administration had signed off on with this design enrollment. And we shouldn't be surprised about where we are today in terms of the total budget number, in terms of the size of the school. We knew consolidation was the driving force behind the MSBA in supporting our project. And that has led us to where we are. And we'll talk about some of the decisions that were made along the way. Total project budget is $169.6 million. We'll talk about how that breaks down between the town's role in that and the budget for the project. So the elephant in the room has always been, as this project started going, the Howard site. And a lot of the school building committee members, me included, when this process started, thought that that's where we would be. You know, we had this sort of central campus feel, and let's put it there. There's a lot of other information about deliberations that the committee made about why that site isn't good from a logistics standpoint, but none of those other bullet points mean anything. It's septic. That was the driving factor in not being at Howard. Most of you are aware that the municipal septic system for all the buildings in the center of town feed into that septic system. It's working fine, but it's at capacity, really. And if we brought down the population from the Roselle to that site and built this same building that we're planning on that site, the existing septic system would not be able to handle that design flow, that capacity. We would then have to look, and a traditional septic system would not be able to do that either. We were at the threshold of having to look at a wastewater treatment facility. Bigger, more complicated, does a better job, if you will, than a traditional septic system. Never mind the $4 million price tag to do that we would be on the hook for ourselves, no MSBA reimbursement for that. There is no place on site to build that new building and do wastewater treatment. And so the committee deliberated over this over multiple meetings, went back and reviewed it again, and ultimately made the decision that we were at a dead end. We would have to be talking about perhaps going off-site someplace outside of the Howard property, and that was beyond the scope of the project, beyond the scope of the school building committee to be able to make those kind of decisions. If the town wants to look at that at some point to do further development at that site, you know, that's a discussion for another day. Certainly not within the time frame of what we're working under with the MSBA for this project. So therefore, we went to the Roselle from there. Mark.
So very hard to see, I understand. Also posted on our website, but these are some of the numbers Gary referred to that the MSBA took from our data enrollment through DESI. So we submit DESI information, they pulled that out and they made some projections. Some of those numbers are low and some of those numbers are high. But it's a history and then projections moving forward looking at enrollment. And it's very accurate that we are not building the school to be fully occupied in the first few years. It may take 15 to 20 years to get up there, but that is intentional because we won't want to build a school that 10 years from now, we're coming back to the town saying, we're at capacity or we're near capacity. What are we going to do now? We'll go into that school with 75% full. We'll go into that school so we'll talk about timeline in a minute, but we will, K-3 would go in at the start of the 29 school year. 4, 5, and 6 will be phase 2, and I believe that would be the start of the 30 school year. So 3 and 4 years from now. 3 and 4 years from now, we'll be at 5 sections because we can't go above 5 sections per grade, leaving us 1 additional classroom per grade. And that, again, is to be filled over the next 50 plus years of this building. So we will go in with space. It's very true, and it's been discussed before, but we're not going to go in with unlimited space. We will fill a majority of the classrooms on day 1, but we will have space left over. The next slide shows where we're at. Right now, we're K-6 starting population, we're right around 700 right now. So we're a little bit below that number. But we're looking at progression using 1.24%. That is historical data. But I know when we look at historical data, we're also not looking at the building we've had in town that's been more recent and into the future, where we still have areas that are going to be developed. That also went into the MSBA student enrollment. And this looks at a 1, a 1.5, and a 2% increase over the next 30 years. And again, 30 years would still be within a very viable time frame for this building. Again, 50 years plus. Right now, our buildings are 58 and 68 years old. So we're hoping that they would last well beyond the 50 years. But I don't want people to come in saying, well, we have so few kids right now. Why are we building the school? We're building it now for the future of our town and the future growth that we're going to have.
All right, perfect. I'm going to talk a little bit about the project goals that the school building committee put together, and then we'll get into some of the building design itself. So as part of the process, the SBC put together some goals that they wanted to have an open process and gain community support was one of them. They wanted the building to feel right for West Bridgewater. They didn't want to be a building that didn't belong here. They wanted a building to meet the current and future educational needs. So that's very important, not just the current, but moving ahead in the future, like Mark said, making sure there's that growth there. A project that's on time and on budget, and as Sean and I would attest, we are very keen on that as project managers for this project. So those were kind of like the main goals that they had summarized. There was a lot more. Those are kind of the topics we summarized to get forth here tonight. As far as the site layout goes, I know again it's kind of tough to see on the screen here. The building is basically a C shape. The existing Roselle School is shown on this plan. It's a dotted red line. It's up on the northern part of the C. Also starting from the right, working our way to the left, Stepping Stone Drive has actually changed a little bit. So it used to be a sharp turn coming into the right. Now it's flattened out, alleviates some of that traffic coming in. We'll also look at the entrance in a few slides. But this is just trying to highlight the queuing length. We have an access road now that goes around the building, so there'll be more available spaces for queuing. Parking on site will be for 135 cars. We actually widened the road at Stepping Stone Drive, which you'll see in a future slide as well. And we've overall reduced the development around the 50-foot.
Mitch, can you just talk about the phasing on that picture?
Yeah, so real quick on the phasing, as I mentioned, you can kind of see the Roselle on the top of the building there, the proposed new building. So what will happen is the southern half of the C would be constructed first while Roselle is still active. Once that's available for students to move into, they would then move into that space. The Roselle would be demolished, and then that northern half of the C would be constructed and then be available for the students to move in. On this site plan, we're just showing where the parent drop-off would be versus the bus drop-off. So we like to separate those for traffic. So the bus drop-off would be in the front of the building, as the orange dot shows, and the parent drop-off would be around the back through the queuing line, where the red/pinkish dot is shown. I also just want to point out on this slide here, I think it's on the next one too. Yeah, so on the next one I'll talk about it. On the bottom left, there's a green area behind the school. So there's a dotted line, that will be the septic location for the new school. Also out on Stepping Stone Drive on your way in, there's a reserve field for the septic. The blue dots indicate the stormwater retention that will be on this site. Currently, there's no stormwater retention on the site, so there's not a lot of area for the water to go. It can run off into neighbors' yards, but this will be all controlled with engineered systems. There's a 60-foot proposed tree buffer to the abutters on Goldie Road, so we want to we will maintain that to Goldie Road and have a tree area there. And in the front, we just wanted to identify the playground areas as well. So playgrounds for each of the different grades, so they vary in sizes. There's landscape architects who look at this closely and see what equipment is right for what age of learning. And I think at the top of this page, you can kind of see it on the top of the C there. There's another outdoor space as well. There'll be a few outdoor classroom spaces too.
I'm sorry, is the playground just that tan color?
Yeah, the orange in the front of the building there, and then, to the southwest of the parking lot, and then to the southeast of the parking lot, there's some additional green space as well. As I mentioned, we are widening Stepping Stone Drive. We're also changing it slightly. So you can see now that there's going to be a dedicated left-hand turn leaving Stepping Stone and a dedicated right-hand turn leaving Stepping Stone. Coming in will be one lane until we kind of pass the first curve. Then it's going to open up to a parent queuing line and a dedicated bus/teacher travel lane as well. So this will help alleviate, right now, there's a lot of traffic coming in on Stepping Stone, going right to the building to drop off, and could have some traffic out all the way to North Elm. This should get all those cars off of the road around the back of the building to the parent drop-off.
So I just want to cover one item relative to the new left and right turn lanes. At the very first public forum that we did at the high school auditorium, probably in the fall of 2023, after the school building committee had been at work for a few months, there was a question that was asked of whether or not we were taking any land by eminent domain. And they weren't specifically referring to the entrance, but my hunch is that that's what they were thinking about. And the comment at the time was no, that the committee had discussed this and we would not going to take any land by eminent domain. Subsequent to that, as going through the process of at least informally meeting with some of the boards and commissions in town, we met with the chair of the planning board and the town planner and looked at a plan that was developed around the time in 2012 when Stepping Stone Drive went from just an access road without a name, or maybe had an informal name at the time. Certainly when the school opened, it didn't have that name. It went from that to an accepted town street. We realized that there was town-owned land available on both sides of that street with enough property that the town already owned that we could create those two lanes. So obviously we didn't want to take anything by eminent domain, but if the land was already owned by the town, we certainly had the right and ability to make use of that, and that's the plan that we put together. We did send out notices to both abutters on the north and south side of the entrance, offered to meet with them individually to go over this plan and to review, make sure there was no negative impact to their personal property beyond what the town land, the land that the town already owned. One of the abutters quickly agreed to meet with us. We met with them. They had some concerns about their septic, which is not impacted by this at all. The other abutter did not accept our invitation to meet, but I just want to put that out there specifically since it did come up as a point of discussion in the very first public forum that we did.
All right, that kind of goes a little bit into our traffic situation. So won't traffic be worse? We're adding a lot of population to the site, so yeah, traffic will increase at the site of the Roselle McDonald School. On the other hand, you're taking traffic away from the center of town here where Howard and Spring Street are, so that should, in theory, get better. We're doing a little bit to improve that situation, as I just showed in the previous slide, by adding the left and right-hand turn lanes and widening the road, separating the parent bus and parent drop-off and bus pickup lanes helps, and adding that queuing to get those cars around the back of the building should help as well.
Can I just add something? So we've heard a lot from our meetings about concerns on traffic, both in the school and in the surrounding areas. So we've been trying to think of some mitigation strategies that could help. And one of the things that we've discussed with our administrative team is that right now there are very short windows of time that our school opens. For example, Spring Street, it's 10 minutes before school starts. Howard School's 10 minutes. Roselle is 15 minutes. Therefore, all your population is coming within this short amount of time, which is going to create backup. But naturally, if something's only open at a certain time, it creates backup. What we are designing and planning for is a 30 to potentially 40-minute time that will be staffed by our staff prior to school starting. So that will allow a window of time, 30 to 40 minutes, for people to drop off, and they will be in the cafeteria. We have a breakfast program that they can participate in. They can sit, they'll be supervised during that time. That should hopefully lengthen the amount of time that people are coming and take some of the stress away. Now, will people still try to come in right before the start of school? Of course they will. But again, trying to think of ways to mitigate some of that crunch time, all happening within a 10 or 15-minute window. Now we stretch that out over a longer period of time. And again, it will not be surround care. They won't have to pay for it. We do something similar to middle senior high school. We have staff that volunteer their time to do that. So again, some things, again, operationally we'll have to figure things out, but that's our plan. With anything that may be a concern, we're going to look at what that concern is and come up with potential solutions to that.
Sorry about that. So getting more into the design and the interior of the building. So as I mentioned, it's kind of a C shape. In the center are essentially community spaces, and then on the north and south are kind of the classrooms and the upper school and the lower school separated. So at the upper school on the north of the page, you'll see grades 4, 5, and 6 on the first, second, and third floor. And the lower floors you'll see, or on the lower part of the page, you'll see grades K through 3 on the first and second floor. So really the only 3-story space of the building is on the northern part of the C. This is just pointing out some spaces on the first floor, the typical layout. So you can see in the middle we have the upper and the lower cafeteria. On the right side in the middle is kind of the administration area. 12 is kind of receiving mechanical, HVAC, etc. And then typical classrooms and pods on the north and south. Clicker's delayed again. Skipping around.
There you go.
Second floor, this one's a little more important to point out. There's some more community spaces here. So the gymnasium is on the second floor. There's a multi-purpose room that can be used for community events. There's also, there's some art up here, OTPT, related services suite. And then sprinkled through, there's the special ed classrooms, extended learning commons, and then your typical classroom wings on the north and south. And on that.
Just what's related services, what is that?
Speech, OT,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
PT.
Then on the third floor is just the 6th graders up in the classroom wing. This is a rendering of the exterior, so you can see it's in the shape of the C, but it's kind of broken up to look like not just one big continuous building. So this is fancy architectural words that I'm not an architect, so I'm not going to speak for them, but that's what this is right here. Then I'll pass it over to Mark.
Okay. You can hold it if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
So one of the big plus for this building is it really reduces transitions between schools. So when the students start in kindergarten, full-time school, they will be in one school from kindergarten through grade 6. Right now they're transitioning from Spring Street to Roselle to Howard and then to the middle senior high school. So it'll bring it down to really one transition once they've reached the kindergarten level. And I think that's really important. I'll talk a little bit later and answer any questions about Spring Street, keeping our preschool program in the Spring Street School, which is going to be a much improved situation for those preschoolers, both space and opportunities. The learning opportunities will be much better. They'll be differentiated in terms of learning spaces. They'll have classroom spaces that will average 900 square feet, which are larger than the spaces we have now. For a frame of reference, the middle senior high school classrooms are 850 square feet, and the science rooms are 1,200 square feet, so much larger. We actually took some of the learning space from the general classrooms and put it into extended learning areas in the hallways so they could bring groups of students out to the hallway. We didn't add space, we took that from available space. Right now, we have very limited space for specialists, science, STEM, art, music, technology are all on carts, except at the Roselle, we do have one art room back, but that may go away next year. Not the greatest learning environment for our students and for our staff traveling between classrooms and doing that work in the general classroom. Collaboration spaces throughout the building. Between classrooms, we have small group spaces that'll be utilized. They're not going to be staffed by additional staff. They'd be utilizing the staff that we currently have, and they'd be visible and workable within the general classroom. But students could work in there as well as the extended learning areas. We'll have an upper school and a lower school, so we'll have spaces that are designed for the particular grade levels. We will have calming spaces, we'll have sensory rooms, all to fit the multiple needs of our kids. Indoor and outdoor learning areas, we'll have a multi-purpose room. We have rooms for our related services and spaces. We'll have outdoor classroom spaces. Right now, our students are doing recess at the Roselle in a parking lot and some pretty outdated playground equipment, so that'll be much improved. And one of the biggest things, like the middle senior high school, we want this to be a community space, not a space that's only used 180 school days a year, but used on nights, used on weekends, used during the summertime, used during vacation time. The building is built for the students and the staff, but it's a community building, and we want it to reflect that. We want it to be used. There's nothing that makes me happier to walk into middle senior high school and see a basketball game going on, a boosters meeting, Girl Scouts using an event, the cheerleaders are in the cafeteria, so that it's constantly being used.
So this is just an overall update. We have all these processes that we go through with the MSBA. One of them is called the Preferred Schematic Report. The most recent one we submitted is called the Schematic Design. So in between those two phases, we went through and we really kind of refined a lot of the spaces, including the mechanical system. So we were showing geothermal initially. We removed geothermal and we added air source heat pump as our mechanical system, which is still a great system. Overall, the site development size was reduced. Removed district offices and pre-K from the project. The classrooms got fine-tuned and the sizes of the programs. So this, all in all, made all the space eligible for MSBA grant. So that kind of shows us at the bottom, we kind of went from 197.6 million to the number that we just talked about earlier, which is 169.6 million.
So with that, our total project cost right now is that 169.6, and of that, the MSBA's estimated potential grant is 72.13 thereabouts. So the cost to the town is about 97.5 million. That's what the town is really looking to, when they're doing the tax calculating, that's the number they're using. And if you go to your website, that's where it'll tell you what your expected tax impact will be on year one. You can put in your assessed value and it'll tell you what, it'll give you that number.
That's not a potential grant anymore, though.
It's always a potential grant through the MSBA. The way their grant process works is they give you a maximum number, and you have, in order to hit that number, you have to basically spend all the money within that grant, and you have to spend it all on eligible costs. So it's very unlikely that you're going to hit that number exactly. You'll get close to it, but unless you spend every dime of contingency in eligible areas, then you'll recover it, but money not spent is money that you won't get grant for. So your total project cost will also be less. So it is a bit of a balance, and the MSBA is very careful about the way they use language around grants and things like that. So it's always estimated potential total grant in their language.
But on December 12th, the MSBA Board of Directors approved our project.
With those stipulations. Yeah.
So this is our SD budget at schematic design is submitted to the MSBA, and I think the bottom got a little bit cut off, but we wanted to show what the construction cost is, how we get to construction cost, and what the different components that make up, and really just highlighting that we do have contingencies in here. We have design and pricing contingencies, we have escalation contingencies, and that's kind of our protection against costs going up between now and the time of construction, scope creep, things that are not currently included in the estimate that need to be included. So it's standard course for the MSBA that they put those line items within the budget for that reason. And on the right-hand side, it shows you, again, what items are total project costs with contingencies. There's also a line in there that talks about scope items excluded. So the MSBA is a grant program, and there are items that are categorically excluded. There are spaces that are categorically excluded. As Mitch said, we don't have any spaces that are excluded from this project. All square footage is eligible for the MSBA, but they do have cost caps on construction costs. So right now, I think it's somewhere around $585 a square foot for construction, and then like $58 a square foot for site. So that's the most they're going to give you for your building. Any cost above that is what they call excluded costs, and they don't participate in that. They understand that you cannot build a building for what they give you, but it's part of a grant program, and they're trying to spread the money around. So that's why we do the calculation here to show you, our reimbursement rate is 60%, but you cannot take that 60% and multiply it by the total project cost and get your grant. You have to go through their calculator spreadsheet to show what they're going to participate in and what they're not. And based on that calculation, their approval, it's around $72 million.
So I'm looking for the total contingency amount.
So there's a couple different contingencies at this point, particularly at schematic design. Over on the left-hand side, you have, there's contingency in design and pricing of $9.9 million. On top of that, you have escalation to midpoint of construction, which is $5 million. So that's what the estimator uses, because they're going to price things basically at today's dollars and then escalate it to when construction is going to happen. On the right side is the owner's contingency after the job is bid to spend, and they have a total contingency over there of about $6.5 million for construction contingency and $2.5 million for soft costs.
And if you don't use it all?
If you don't use it all, you don't bond for it, it goes back to the town.
You reduce the bond, because you bond immediately, and then later on, you reduce it.
You could probably give me a lesson on how bonding works, but I believe you typically do bands, you do bond anticipation notices, and you borrow in chunks, and then at one point you make your final borrowing. So normally what happens as the job progresses, we'll provide cash flows to the bonding company through the town administration. And as you get closer to the end, we'll know what the final number is, or estimate the final number, and they'll take a final bond anticipation notice of that number, and then they'll roll it all into a final bond.
Has it been your experience that all contingencies are not used?
In our experience, there's typically contingencies left at the end of projects, yes.
What are they using for, trend or inflation?
Oh, for escalation to midpoint?
Yeah.
I believe it's around 5% for this project.
5%?
Yes. So for debt service, we typically, for the public's benefit, I think you're probably well aware of this, there's two types of debt services that towns typically use, level debt and level principal. For this project, and I believe as you did with the middle high school, using level principal service, which means you pay the same principal every year, which pays down the interest faster, which saves you over time on this project about $12 million. One of the questions we're often asked is, why is this project so much more expensive than the middle high school project? So that project back in 2012 was a $63 million project. If you take that and escalate it to today's value, that's now a $159 million project. So that building is also 8,500 square feet smaller than the building we're building, and so we're looking at it from apples to apples. If you escalated, you're right in that same range, just from the time of construction and the cost of construction going up over that time. We do note that this school serves significantly more students than that middle high school. That middle high school is built for 620 students. This is being built for 10,075. For cost data, the MSBA provides a lot of data on their website. This chart is from the MSBA's website. It shows all school projects back from 2009 to current, and including planned projects that are going into their pipeline and going into construction in the next couple of years. The orange line on there is their trend line of what is the average cost per square foot for school construction, and the dotted line beyond that is just a continuation of the trend into the future. We put the middle high school project on there and the Roselle just to highlight where they fit in the mix of things, to show that the middle high school is really right on the average cost, and the Roselle is a little bit below what the average cost is these days. And just because it's a little bit easier to see, here's a list of projects that are currently kind of in that SD phase, moving into construction over the next couple of years, just to give you a spread of other middle and elementary schools around and what their estimated cost per square foot is now. And it really just goes to show that you're kind of in the middle of the pack. You're not the most expensive.
What would be driving that big difference between like East Bridgewater and West Bridgewater? And I picked those because, you know, East Bridgewater's right next door.
We do have a slide on it, but there's a lot of factors. So I don't know all of these. I don't know the intricacies of all of these. Oftentimes it's site work, bigger sites.
Okay.
Some of them have fields. Some of them have lots of site they have to do. Sometimes they have buildings that have to be demolished in order to do it. So
Okay.
there's a litany of different things.
That drive.
And then
Okay.
also cost per square foot as you build larger buildings, not skyscrapers, but when you build buildings that are 2 to 3 stories and you make them bigger, the cost per square foot averages down.
Okay.
So a smaller building is typically more expensive per cost per square foot than a larger building, which is part of the reason why the MSBA does kind of push for consolidation.
Okay.
So here's that East Bridgewater project. They're 107,000 square feet versus 150 for this building. We show there it's a pre-K through 2 at 585 population versus ours at 1075. Their total project cost, their MSBA grant, and their expected district cost. So they're going to pay $83 million for 107,000 square foot building. You're looking at 97.5 for 150. So their cost per square foot is quite a bit higher than yours, even factoring the MSBA grant, and their cost per student is significantly higher. And that all goes. That's why we're talking about like building bigger and taking care of the more needs up front is what the MSBA often asks districts to look at, and that's part of the reason they do that. What happens if you don't move ahead? Well, one, you're going to forego the grant. You cannot go back to the MSBA with the revised project at that grant value. If this project that has been submitted in SD that has been approved by their board doesn't get voted and approved, then there is a failed vote procedure. You can go back and vote again. But if it doesn't pass the vote, the project goes on the shelf and the MSBA's grant comes back to the state, and you are not eligible for those funds. You can resubmit to the MSBA and hopefully get back in at some time. Your existing buildings you're still gonna have to maintain them, you're still gonna have to operate them. Eventually, you're probably gonna have new classroom space with the growth that we saw. There's overcrowding already happening. You're gonna outgrow those buildings, and you're gonna have to figure out what to do with spaces, either modular classrooms or some sort of additions. The teachers and the students are still gonna remain in those the older spaces until you figure out another plan to fix the buildings or rebuild the buildings, and then you reapply for state funding, which can take years. And as we said, as you saw from that chart, construction costs just continue to rise. So the longer you wait to build something, just the more expensive things get to build. Up in Ipswich, there was a project that went to a vote in 2018. That project at the time had a district cost of around $43.5 million. That vote failed. It was a combination of 2 schools. They didn't vote to approve the project. They just got back into the MSBA program. They're looking now at a total project cost of $165 million, with the district share up to $102 million. So it's an 11-year delay to get back into the MSBA pipeline, to get back in and to build a school of similar size is going to cost them significantly more. So again, we talked a little bit about kind of future costs. Those existing schools, you're ultimately going to have to renovate them. You're going to have to put new systems in, new windows, new roofs, and things like that. We have some slides coming up just to show what our early renovation estimates look like for the Roselle and the Howard. Those costs wouldn't have been supported by the MSBA because they don't fit your educational plan. They won't support the enrollment that the MSBA provided because they're just too small. The current building themselves are too small, so just to renovate them, the MSBA would never provide a grant for those because they won't fit your educational plan. They just don't work within their program. Again, in renovating those buildings won't provide any additional growth. You just fit within the walls, and you just have an older building that's been newly renovated, but also still the same size, same amount of classrooms. And to do that, you're going to have to get swing space. In order to renovate those buildings, you're going to have to move the kids out. So, renting modular trailers, moving them out for a year or 2, renovating the buildings, then moving them back in. And then eventually, when you outgrow the buildings, you're likely going to have to use modular classrooms in the interim until you build a new building that can support the added growth. During our preliminary design program, we had estimates on the Roselle and the Howard for renovation. We didn't include the Spring Street in here because we're kind of trying to compare the new school, the student population that you're taking care of with the new school. So in this one, the total of those two buildings just to renovate them was around $96 million. With the MSBA grant of the new school, your cost is about $97.5.
And HMFH and PMA are working on a document that we're going to be sharing out with the public that gives more context behind what those numbers mean, because I think it's important to show what replacing the systems are, what systems we talk about, what needs to be done, so people can really see. It won't give individual costs, but it'll show the scope of the projects that need to be done that make up that funding.
And generally speaking, this is full gut reno, new electrical system, new mechanical system, fire suppression, new windows, roofs, and things like that. So really fully renovating the building.
It's not piecemeal renovation.
These numbers are not piecemeal renovation, correct. So MSBA, as we said, they do encourage districts to look at consolidations, and part of the reasons is the construction costs continue to rise. So you build once. One larger building is less expensive for districts to maintain over the long course. It's less expensive to run and maintain one building than it is to maintain multiple buildings. They're less expensive to build up front, and you have the largest positive impact on students on day one. So you can, a larger building has more students in there, and everybody, more people get to benefit from day one. The other thing is you can replace multiple aging schools and move out of those into a new modern building that it's hopefully less expensive to operate and maintain. And then minimizing the amount of times you go back to the MSBA asking for grants to build new schools and to deal with aging school buildings.
So just to wrap up before we open up for questions, and I think we've covered most of the bullet points here. For me, the summary statement, and I look at this as a lifelong resident of this town, going through the whole school system. My folks did, my kids did. I was, when Roselle opened, it was 4, 5, and 6. I was in the inaugural 5th grade class there. You do the math. But, I just look at the growth that's occurred in the town, and the 1960 census, which was roughly around the time Spring Street was being built and 8 years before Roselle opened, was 5,061. The 2020 census was 7,707. The 2024 annual report for the town showed us at 7,856. I don't know what the 2025 number is going to show. My guess is it's approaching 8,000. Certainly, the curve that we're on for when this school potentially would open in 2030, we may be pushing the 10,000 mark. So I just look at this as, it's a big ask. It's huge. But we've allowed the growth to occur in the town, and we can't ignore the fact that we're living with buildings that can't support the population, and we have an obligation. If we're going to allow this growth, and the growth is going to continue to occur, we need to address our responsibility to the school population to be able to handle the growth that comes into the town. I just really believe that, in spite of the numbers, it's never going to get cheaper. It's only going to get more expensive, and the options that we've looked at, we tried to do it all with pre-K as well. Pre-K, we couldn't put at the Roselle site, again, because of septic. We tried to address the biggest population at one time with the state funds that were available to move forward. And I just don't know any other option that makes this viable to go from here. So that's where we're at, and I know you probably have a lot of questions, and we'll do our best of our ability to answer those.
Thank you. This is a lot of information to absorb. I know I have questions. Do other folks have questions that you want to start with?
So could I start? So what my first question would be on the design, how you were trying to show that flow of traffic where parents would go around the back and buses would go around the front. If I remember, and I don't know what it's like at the high school now because I've been out of there for a few years, but that was the plan at the high school, and then that kind of didn't work for school safety reasons. where you wanted the one entrance. So how is that gonna be aligned with this?
Good question. So we did start that way.
Yeah,
That was the
I remember.
intended design, and we did go away. Safety, the police chief
Yep.
had a concern wanting one door. But this year we have gone back to the two-door,
Oh, we did.
with stipulations that we have staff at each entrance, whether it's the SRO and our administrator, one or the other. It does, I think, help the flow. I think we'll all agree that the middle senior high school is not the greatest flow, partly because of how it's situated.
Yeah.
But I do feel that it's better now that we've gone back to the design, and I see something very similar. I was at the Roselle this morning and I watched Arrival, and I actually walked down by the gym when they go around that kind of little island in the back, and I noticed that they were not even backed up to that prior to them starting, the arrival process. And then I watched the cars come in, and the queuing is certainly less students and less parents right now, but it's a much shorter queuing. So having the ability for parents to go around back and drop off with a much larger queue, and also have that road 10 feet wider, which now we know it's really miserable trying to get in there
Yeah.
if cars are parked on one side. So I think it's much improved with queuing, and then a longer one. So to answer your question, I think it's improved back at the middle senior high school since we've gone to that two-door system. And they'll both be coming into a central area, and we'll have at least two, we'll start with two administrators, we're not adding any, but they would have people at each entrance to make sure the kids are safe.
There's also that loop access, obviously doesn't exist now at the Roselle site. There's certainly an emergency accessibility feature of that comes into play that I think is important. I was an all-call firefighter when we had a fire 2:30 in the morning on the loading dock at Roselle, and the limited access to the backside of that property was very difficult during that fire.
Right.
So the public safety aspect, not only the operations aspect with drop-off, but the public safety aspect of that loop road is important too.
So can I piggyback off of that from a safety perspective though, because that's all woods behind there, right?
Correct.
So is there a concern that there's, just other safety concerns in the back there?
If they can get to the wetlands, I think it's any building that's, there could be safety concerns, but there'll be locking doors, only
It's just
access in.
secluded back there.
It is. The back of the middle senior high school is somewhat secluded with woods behind the tennis courts as well. So there'll be full camera coverage out there as well.
But that was one issue in the siting of the play areas too, to put them in the front of the building.
Right, makes more sense.
Do you have other questions, Sue?
I do. Someone else can go.
Okay. Somebody else have a question they want to go?
I'll just say from a finance committee viewpoint, I think your whole team has done the best job that could be done dealing with, what you have to deal with. But from a finance committee viewpoint, of course, I have to think of the whole town. And as you said, Gary, it's a big ask, and that big ask worries me in terms of our seniors. I live in an over 55 community. It's amazing how apathetic a lot of people are about things, and these are people that have disposable income, but when I mention it to my neighbors, they're like, what? How much? Which is their own fault because they're not asking. By the same token, we've raised our HOA fees this year 20% because of the state of the economy today. So that's affecting every other thing besides the school, this disposable income for people. Yeah. I'm not sure about the timing. That's what I'm concerned about. Is there better timing? Doesn't look like it, in terms of the future. So it's a dilemma. I wish we could see a budget for the next 5 years, but my guess is contractual agreements are going to be through the roof to account for inflation, and we have to live with all of that plus the hidden costs, not only salaries but health care, legacy costs. Can we do that? And I've always said from a finance viewpoint, if we got the money, fine. I don't care. Let's spend it for all these good things. So a lot of unknowns, and I'm still trying to process all of it, but that's not to take away from the work you guys have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if there's any energy efficiency in here. A lot of municipalities and schools and things are putting in solar panels and things like that for energy efficiency. Is there anything in there?
Yeah, so we worked with HFH, who's the architect, and their engineer, GGD, and went through a whole life cycle cost analysis of all the different mechanical systems that were an option. There was even a sustainability subcommittee that met with GGD and HFH multiple times. And that they helped guide us through the process, and we got to that air source heat pump option for the mechanical system, which is a very efficient system. As far as solar readiness, the building is required to be solar ready.
Okay.
So we'll have pathways to electrical panels, and then also the structure itself will be able to hold solar panels if any are added as a purchase agreement later on.
Okay. Is that covered under the grant money or no?
No,
Not the solar is.
not the solar.
Not the
Typically,
panels.
yeah,
Solar ready.
The
everything-
solar ready is?
The
Yes.
solar ready is under, yeah.
but not the panels. MSBA typically doesn't have and that's usually separate. Oftentimes, towns do power purchase agreements, so
Yeah.
there's no upfront costs, and you
Yeah.
make a deal with a solar company to bring
Yeah.
in, or you can buy them yourselves, and that's
Yeah.
kind of after the building opens. But the building will be ready to accept solar panels if you choose to use them. Other than that, the building will be up to the highest energy codes available right now. It's required of the MSBA to be a very efficient envelope.
Yeah, the state has what they call a stretch energy code, and this project has to adhere to that stretch energy code.
Okay. There's sort of a lot of elephants in the room, but so like from a staffing perspective, obviously you have, 3 buildings, you have 3 principals, 3 assistant principals. Like, do you anticipate like savings from staffing by combining and consolidating into one building?
So we don't anticipate any additional costs. So right now at the elementary schools, we have 2 principals only. There's no assistant principals, and one
Okay.
principal is responsible for both Roselle and Spring Street. So the idea would be, again, looking 3 and 4 years out to bring over those 2 administrators. By that time, we would have, a little bit of, we're assuming an increase in the population now, but we would not add any administrators. We would consolidate the office staff. Our related services who work in different buildings would be consolidated together. Our nurses, we'd have 2 nurses for that population, which would make sense. So no additional cost. Now, additional costs would come with an increase in population when we need to add staff, but other than that, there'd be, as far as we are, planning, no additional costs.
I was thinking more savings.
Well, there could be, but we don't really have the extra people. If we had multiple assistants, I would say yes, we wouldn't
Okay.
need 4 administrators in the building, but 2 administrators for when we move in, maybe 775 students. I think that's pretty standard.
Okay. And then I was wondering about, there's a big question about the school choice. So
Sure.
right now, what do we have, about 100 kids in that?
Right
age
now,
grade?
we are
In
29.
in that age.
In the elementary,
Yeah.
we're less than that. We're in the mid-60s.
Okay.
We've decreased at the elementary level. We're consistently in the 40s, around 44, 45% of our school choice students were at the elementary level. This year, we're at 29% of our
Yeah, I
students, so
know you
we've
scaled
consistently
back.
gone down.
Yeah.
And about 92% or so of each class on average is West Bridgewater students. So
Okay.
there is a small percentage of school choice.
Because I think people are wondering to what extent
Yeah.
that might be driving the overcrowding,
Yeah,
right?
no, I think it's, again, it's much more of a concern at the secondary level. There's a few things about school choice. Number one, we've used the addition of school choice over the years to really help reduce class sizes. If we've approached class sizes that would be 24, 25 students, and we could add a few school choice students, not only are we bringing in some additional funding, but now we add that teacher, and now we're down to 19 to 21 students. So educationally, it makes a lot of sense. It also brings in, this past year, we budgeted $1.2 million into our budget, which probably averages about 7% of our overall budget. It comes into the school contributions through school choice. that's significantly down from over 1.5 million just as soon as a few years ago. So we have 239 students through school choice in the district as of today, with a high of 285 students a few years ago. So that number is decreasing. We've made an intentional decision to decrease, especially at the elementary level, because once they come, there are students until they decide to leave or they graduate. So we have, in essence, left money on the table, but we also did not want to potentially overcrowd, because our magic number at the elementary schools is 5. We can support 5 classrooms per grade at kindergarten, the Roselle, and the Howard. Once we get to 6 in any grade level, we do not have the spaces. So that's our magic number, and we're teetering. And I do think in 3 years, 5 will be the norm, and I think we'll be at the upper end of that 5. So that's what raises my biggest concern. We can certainly eliminate school choice and continue to lessen, but the data shows from the MSBA our numbers over the years will continue to increase 1.5%, potentially 2% a year.
Okay.
Well, going along with that, now you're going to have a building that has a lot of space.
Yeah.
Will you be tempted to increase the number of school choice students?
If we get to a position where our classes of 5 are getting to 24, 25, 26 students, we could increase a little bit. But we also know that there's a finite end to this, because if we overcrowd up to grade 6, they're going to go into grade 7. So we have to be aware. And then we've always tried to be very aware of all additions to the school district. So if we got up to, if we, I would say artificially, or if we brought in students and we were up to the 140s, 150s, that would set a difficult precedent at grade 7 and 8. Knowing though we do lose students in grade 9 to vocational and private and the agricultural schools, but then we would have to maintain that number because our middle senior high school is growing as well. It was design enrollment for 625 students. We're about 636, I think, right now. So we wouldn't want to inflate at the elementary because we know that would travel to the middle senior high school. So would we add if there was openings? Yes, because it's only going to mean that we would be able to contribute more to our budget, meaning the town would have to contribute less. But we would not do it at the expense of detrimental effects, if that makes sense.
I've asked this question before, but maybe for our board. Gary was nice enough to answer it at the senior center, and that is that we had 8 members of the committee that voted no to this project. Could you identify them again for the board, Gary?
Sure.
And any information as to why they voted no? Because there's some big names in there.
Well, 2 of them are here, but let me pull out the minutes so I have an accurate reflection. So we had 23 voting members the night of that meeting in October to vote the project to be submitted to the MSBA. The no votes were Art Cabral, Chair of the Water Commissioners, David Gagne, Town Administrator, Cheryl Adams, representing Finance, Lincoln Tebow, the Fire Chief, and Marcy Lee, Board of Selectmen, and Timothy Nixon, Police Chief, and Jim Holden as a former, he's not representing the school committee, former school committee member, former finance committee member, and he was a member of the middle senior high school building committee. Those are the 8.
Do you guys want to, speak to why you voted the way you did?
I am thinking more globally than just about the school. We have a crisis with our water. We have to spend a lot of money to make sure everybody in the town can have safe, potable water. So we have budget constraints. We're going to be looking at people from the water department looking to get more money. And it's a big lift for, as Mo said, for senior people. But I also had a lot of concerns about the safety. I don't believe the building is structured to receive if there's a problem, which I hope we never have. I don't see how the building is structured to keep the kids safe and have good access from, for the fire department and the police department. I know you've designed it to the best of your ability. I really think the site has given us so many troubles that, I mean, we got backed into the corner by the MSBA, I think, in their process. I don't believe their process is conducive to towns to seek the right answer. They're kind of forced, you're forced to make some decisions early on. And you can't backpedal. Once you've made, as you know, you've said, once you get that approval, you can't look around and say, well, wow, we have another opportunity over here. So it's that, and we still have to take care of the Spring Street School. I mean, your building where your offices are is not in good shape. That hasn't been addressed. And the Howard School still is gonna have to, if we're going to use it for other purposes, which I've heard different things about how that building is gonna have to be maintained. These are all responsibilities for the town that we still are facing. So, budget-wise, it's a big lift for the people in the town to solve this one problem, but we have a whole bucket load of other problems coming down the pipe too.
If I could just respond to a
Yeah,
couple, just
please.
because I want to make sure the public
Yep,
is informed,
please.
and I hear you on the budget. That's always been a concern. So we acknowledge that. We've said that from day one, that it is a big ask, as Gary has said. Safety internally, when we look at the systems that would be involved in the new school internally, we would have automatic locking doors. We would have state-of-the-art cameras. It would be much improved from where we're at now. Exterior-wise, we've straightened out that road. We've widened that road 10 feet, so increasing the opportunity for police and fire to get into the building. Increasing the loop road around the building, I think, is a huge benefit to the safety and security of a building, as well as maintaining but not changing the access road out to Goldie, which provides an opportunity if there is an emergency. So I'm confident within the design and also within the operations. We have a very active Safe Schools Committee that would continue to look and continue to meet as we do monthly to discuss any issues related to safety. In terms of Spring Street, yes, it is the oldest building in town. That is a school building, so that is certain. But as you'll see, hopefully in your tours tomorrow, you'll see a much improved space.
Next week.
Next week. No, not tomorrow. We've got enough meetings. Not Friday night. You will see a much improved situation. You will, and people that will come next Thursday for the public tour. Right now are 3 preschool classrooms, and we're very limited to 3 because of space. One is in the old teacher's room. Are interdispersed amongst business office, central office, superintendent's office. Bathrooms are in the central hallway, and we have people coming and going to the central office through that space. And related services are, we have 4 or 5 individuals treating students in one classroom. We have 5 people in a business office. The preschool students would move down to 5 classrooms. They would have bathrooms in each of their classrooms. They would have group spaces. They'd have easy access to the playground area. So the situation will be much improved for them. And then in terms of the Howard School, yes, there are many different options. I've spoken on them before. I don't feel it's appropriate, although I have, so to give thoughts on it, but I think there are opportunities, and I see that as an asset to the town. Anytime you look at a building that size, there could be opportunities for rentals or some other use amongst the town. And again, not my place to dictate that. That would certainly come from Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Town Administrator, Finance Committee would have a lot of input. But I think it's better to have options than no options. An option could be to tear it down and create fields there. An option could be to move the Spring Street over there and utilize the space at Spring Street for fields and parking to improve some of the driving. So there are options there. So, but all legitimate concerns, but we hope to try to address those as well.
Yeah, because I'd wonder if we're going to keep those buildings and try to do something with them, then are they not as bad as we think? Or, would we have to invest a ton of money to make them useful? Or, like, what does that really mean, right?
I mean, we're thinking more globally. I
Yeah.
mean, you've fine-tuned this and you understand what you want. You want this, but we have the whole town to think about.
Understood.
So that's what my frame of reference
Sure.
is.
So what is the vision for, like, you had mentioned during part of the presentation, for other, like for the school to be used more community? What is the vision for that? Like, how would that work when you start allowing, I guess it would be non-school type things in there, or what were you referring to there?
Well, right now, we have youth cheerleading, for example, sometimes using a large common area in the middle senior high school, often in the cafeteria. They're also sharing that space with the high school potentially, and then if there's any kind of other events going on, so they don't have an individual space. At the new building, there would be a multi-purpose room, there would be the gymnasium, and also a larger library. So, whether it's student groups,
Oh, I
whether
see. So it's still
parent groups,
school-related, like,
School-related.
okay.
I mean, there's still potentially rental opportunities, weekends and nights for the YEA. If we made, the gym would be almost twice the size of each of the other elementary gyms, so that's additional space. And if you maintain the Howard School, you still have that as an option. So
Okay.
I think getting as many groups in there as possible, whether it's rental opportunities or if it's town organizations, it's certainly for free and encourage use.
Okay. And then what about, like, to furnish this school? Like, what is the thought there? Like, is that more additional costs, or is that
That's
already in
included
here?
in-
It's
that's
in
included,
here?
yes.
Like desks and?
Desks and
the whole-
technology and
Okay.
computers and, yes, all
Are
of
we
that.
using anything from the Howard School?
We would go through and kind of look at both the Roselle and the Howard. If there's new items that can be salvaged, there's certainly a potential there. Oftentimes, it's just not worth it.
Like the whiteboards that we bought?
I mean, those
Yeah,
new
we spent
TVs
a
could
lot
be
of money.
repurposed. I mean, again, they'll be 3 or 4 years older at that time, but they certainly could be repurposed up to the middle senior high school. I will tell you, when we moved out of the middle senior high school, and I was the principal, they got a box. And if it fits in the box, they get to take it. We weren't bringing old bookcases and old chairs and old desks. Again, it's factored into the FF&E. We want high-quality stuff that will last a long time, and most of the stuff would remain at the school.
We have a budget that will support outfitting this building, but if there are items that can be reused, this is a prevailing wage job. So if you imagine what it costs to take a whiteboard off, put it in a truck, drive it over to another school, and then hang it back up at a prevailing wage, it's
a good-
oftentimes
Good point, yeah.
less expensive just to buy new, it comes in a truck, and it's more efficient to do it that way. But if there are opportunities, sometimes kitchen equipment, if you've updated a kitchen recently, those are big ticket items that it does make sense to
Right.
try to salvage those items.
Yeah, we did do roofs on both Spring and Howard, right? We already did the roofs over?
Howard, I believe, was the gym, was a more recent, and Spring Street was done a few years ago. I don't know the date, but, so that's in better shape, and they did the skylights as well. But I believe the Howard was just the gym. I think it was it was part of the documentation. I think it was 8 to 10 years ago. I could be wrong,
I don't think it was that long ago, because I think it was on the committee, and I don't think
Okay.
I've been on the committee that long.
though. Okay.
Other questions?
I have just one last
Yeah.
one, and it may not be the purview of this discussion, but it is going to go to, if it's voted in, it'll get to Concom, and there
Oh, yeah,
are big
that'll be
issues
something.
there. That being said, let's assume Concom says no. Is there money in the contingency funding to pay for a redesign to pull that school out of any wetland areas? Could you use that money?
Well, right now we are, we're still going through the design process, so
Yeah.
at some point, before it's 100% designed, we have that conversation with Concom.
Right.
So whatever budget is left over, the architect is required to call design to budget. They have to design a building that would fit that site. So we would certainly push the architect if there needs to be redesigned to work within, some of the guys at Concom, or if we come to some sort of agreement, then we would expect that to be included within the architect's original contract.
Okay.
The building is not within the buffer. The building's been moved. It's a couple of pieces of the road.
Yeah, that unfortunately is a big issue.
So, I'm sorry, what does that mean?
It's in the wetlands.
Okay, so you're saying the architect would have to redesign it so that it's not in the wetlands?
Yeah, yeah,
And then how does that work with the grant?
nothing.
No, it wouldn't affect the grant.
No.
So
He has
why-
to design to
that
the
would be
budget,
affected.
yeah.
So why wouldn't we
So your
have
10
designed
foot may
it?
go now down to 6 feet.
So I believe right now, most of it is, it has to do with the roadway that goes behind the
Right.
building.
And a little going in, I
And there
think.
could be a potential that that road would have to be decreased, but it's, the road is at the size due to fire and police and just building access where it makes a lot of sense. So the hope is that we can kind of show Concom that from a general standpoint, we are actually improving it. Right now, the existing Roselle is in a wetland, and that goes away. And some of the roadways going in are in wetlands and in buffers, and that goes away. So the overall site is a reduction of what is currently in wetlands and in buffers, but it does include disruption of a small portion of wetlands, not wetlands, but in the buffer, the 50-foot buffer of the wetlands. So it's kind of a nuanced point that we need to have continued design discussions and conversations with Concom to see what they may allow and what they won't, and we'll refine the design based on that.
Okay,
This
so
is all assuming it's passed.
Assuming, yes.
So, to restate, the building itself is not in wetlands
correct.
as designed.
That's correct.
The road is in the buffer zone, but not in the wet.
A portion of the road is in the 50-foot
We have a
wetland
50-foot buffer
which
zone.
is
Got it.
in West Bridgewater, they typically do not allow disturbance within the 50-foot buffer.
Okay, I got it.
And Sean, the procedure, the timing is the same as in all projects, correct? We wouldn't be going to Concom, no other project go before.
No, it's,
We
which
had-
to me is just,
We met
doesn't
with
make
them.
sense.
The problem is to get to the level of design to go to Concom, you would spend a significant amount of design money, which you don't have because you haven't approved
Yeah.
the design fee. So it's kind of a cart before the horse
Yeah.
type situation where we try to do the best to get everything out there, understanding that there's concerns, bringing it up with Concom so they're aware of it as we go into the project. So no one's, it's not a surprise to anyone, and then working through these issues with Concom as the design progresses.
Which is the same process we went through with the middle senior high school.
Okay.
And I do think it's worth noting that listening to the concerns, that they did do the wetland flagging before,
Right.
to try to really delineate where those wetlands were, rather than just going off old drawings, spending the money and the time to do that, so the design could be as accurate as possible at this point.
So I think it would be helpful, because I think a lot of questions have come up around, the discussion we had briefly about what would it take to, repair or maintain or whatever the buildings that we have. Do you think that you could have that so that we're gonna vote on this, was it the 27th?
Yes.
Yeah, before we as a committee vote on it on the 27th, do you think you could have that to
We
us?
can have any information you would like.
Okay, that would be,
If
I
that
think it
and
would be
there's other
helpful.
questions, want more information, just let us know and we'll provide you that.
Okay.
But let me just
I think it
clarify
would be
question.
helpful.
Is your comment, question or need related to renovation of the buildings to maintain the two buildings as schools, or
Mm-hmm.
renovation to look at other uses, particularly for Howard? Because that's outside our scope
No,
as a
no,
school
no, just
building.
so I think the question that I have heard from, different taxpayers is, if we don't go forward with this, what would it take to, get our schools in better shape in terms of the expenses? Like, I think we had a $96
Yeah,
million,
okay.
like, if we could have more
But
information on that,
admittedly,
that's helpful.
that assumes just within the existing footprint of both those buildings,
Yeah.
so.
No, I understand.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
So
understand.
the answer to your question is yes.
Okay,
And
I just think it's helpful for
Yeah.
the conversation, and I think that people are asking for it, so.
Yeah.
I think
And I
it's,
think one of the things too is, I would assume that if it's renovated, you may end up with less space if you're widening things and reducing ramps. For example, Roselle has ramps on both sides of it, which, I'm not sure if they are or not ADA compliant at this point.
yeah, and I think that's helpful for people to understand, right? What those constraints are, what we're dealing with right now, what it would take to I guess, rehab it or whatever. Like, I think
The design
that's
team's
helpful.
working on that now. It is more of a general talking about rehab.
Yeah,
Mechanical
of
systems
course,
just do that,
yeah.
just because they're not spending the time in going through the
No,
fine tooth
right.
comb. But if you didn't go through this project, you would certainly hire an architect to go through.
To go through.
And do a full assessment of, what needs to happen and
Mm-hmm.
what the changes that you're gonna do on day one are gonna trigger, because once you start renovating old buildings, there's certain criteria where you have to do more work
Yeah.
to get it up to satisfy different code levels.
Yeah. I
And as a
understand.
39-year career fire protection engineer, there's no fire protection in either of those buildings.
Oh,
That's at the top of the
interesting.
list.
Yeah,
So.
okay. Yeah, I don't know if there, I mean, did the committee look at perhaps like an addition to any of the schools or a supplemental
Yeah.
building?
Yeah, just like with middle senior high school, it would not be repair, it would be renovation addition. That's a requirement, one of the options. There were like 17 or 19 options that we looked at, and that included renovation and addition, just like in the middle senior high school, but it doesn't make sense
Okay.
economically. You have to upgrade whatever you keep
Yeah,
up to the current codes.
Yep.
And so by the time you do that, it tilts the scale to make it cost effective for what you end up with.
It's almost as expensive to renovate, because by the time you're done with it all you're really saving is the structure.
yeah,
And oftentimes, you still have to do structural upgrades then, and then, sometimes you save the brick, it has to be repointed, but new windows, new everything. And then you're gonna put in an addition to that, and the efficiency of space, you lose a lot of that, where if you build new, you get a lot more bang for your buck in laying out spaces the way you want them, making the classroom size the way you want them, building the spaces you want, instead of confining yourselves to the existing
Yeah.
structure, and then trying to figure out how do you tack on an addition that really flows and works with the building. Because if the Roselle, you'd end up with a building next to it, it really wouldn't be a kind of a conducive to a single school.
yeah, yeah.
So we did look at all of that, and on our website, just for your information, there are all of our submissions to the MSBA. They are big documents, 1,000-page documents that run through in great detail all of this. So what we're trying to do, to your question, is pull out that information just so we can package it up for the public, so
Yeah.
that to digest it, so they don't have to go through and read every single page.
Yeah, I think that's helpful, and I think a lot of people are looking for that, based on what I've heard.
Can I spin off that a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to understand, or devil's advocate, let's say this doesn't pass. There's going to be costs come the year 2030. We're beyond the building size. Is that right?
I think we will be, yes.
So
We'll be
we're
above
going-
our 5, our META
Right,
5.
so we're going to have to bring in additional, whatever you call them,
Modules.
modulars or whatnot. If we don't go for the school, and let's estimate it takes 10 years to get back to this point, what is that gonna cost? Those 10 years, is that gonna cost just about the same amount as the school? Is it only going to be 10 million that we've spread out over 10 years? I mean, aside from, what sort of upgrades we have to do to the buildings, what do we have to do to make the space?
That's the dilemma.
What does it cost? If we're going to have to spend, we know we're gonna have to spend money. Are we better off investing in this new asset? Or do we keep putting money into something that we know is not increasing in value and doesn't help our situation?
Yeah,
So I understand the global picture completely, and that we're stressed and that there's money tight. But at the same time, I'm not sure what the other option is, because we're still gonna be looking at expenses. It's still going to hit every one of us in our real estate taxes. And is that cost going to end up being pretty close to the same cost of the new school?
And I'll submit to you that analysis you just went through, while your tax rate individually may not take the hit that we're seeing with this, I'll submit to you that your ability to get your asking price for selling your house will. So this is a different situation than we had with the middle senior high school. There we had an aging building that we were in a situation of losing accreditation. I think people understood what a non-accredited high school would do to their the ability to sell their home at the asking price. I think they appreciated that, which is why the vote passed. This is a different situation. This is an overcrowding situation we have today. We anticipate getting worse. And you can't tell me that the scenario that you just described would have a negative effect on your ability to sell your home. When all around us, the communities are addressing this same issue, and most of the property in this town is single-family dwellings, and you try to sell your home to a young family looking for a new home, what's the first question they ask? what's the status of the schools? What condition are the buildings in? Are they going to be a good place for my kids to go to school and learn?
And I have, just to piggyback, and I have just, educational concerns of using modular classrooms, safety concerns of, students being outside. Will it happen overnight? No, it's going to be progressive, but it's going to be cumulative in the cost, I think, because we'll be adding, one modular 1 year at Roselle, then maybe next year it's at the Howard. At the same time, once we've reached that population of 5, now we've reduced school choice, and now there's a deficit of $400,000 there, an addition of $200,000 for a modular classroom. So we are putting more money into our budget. We're asking the town for more money. And again, I've been in education here in West Bridgewater for almost 30 years. I care deeply about the students, staff, and the entire community. So I totally appreciate everything that goes into this. But we're just trying to think forward enough to do what's best long term. And again, this is a 50-year building, but we know there's decisions that are going to be made within a month as well.
The ability to do modulars at Howard could also be impacted by or limited by the concerns with the septic there in terms of what you can add there for modular space without negatively affecting the existing septic.
I think we all have to realize it's going to cost us more money. We just have to decide what's the better choice in the long run.
As individuals, and that's what the voters will do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I am concerned a little bit too about the commercial tax base in town. We get a lot of revenue from our commercial tax base. And I've heard a couple of comments from commercial people in town that they're saying we can't take much more of this, that we're going to think about maybe leaving. Because we can't continually take this on without passing it on. Hence, that's our national economy, the tariffs and everything that's getting passed on. So when do we reach that point with the commercial tax base where it's going the other way now? That's part of the dilemma too, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to look at that calculator and look at your home value and see the impact that this is going to have on people.
Well, how much more is it, David, for commercial on the tax base? Twice, 3 times?
Are you referring to the tax rate?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's about double.
double.
So, another quick question. So it was the MSBA that projected the number of 1,075. That came from them,
For K through 6 enrollment, yes.
and that was the figure that they said they would do the reimbursement at, or whatever, for that. That was the goal.
It's in coordination with the town. It's during the statement of interest period. They bring in the district, they have conversations about it, talk about new growth, and then at one point they call it enrollment certification. And they enroll for the K through 6 option. That's the enrollment number they come up with. So
Did that enrollment number include at the time the school choice students too?
They took our numbers.
just town?
They took our numbers that were publicly available. So they took
So it
our
would be-
current
it would
numbers.
be-
So they were
included in that.
Yeah.
And so now if we're talking about winding that down, right? So now we're on a projected number, but we're taking away.
The choice will be going down, but our
What?
residents are going up. But I think our feeling is that the choice will remain the same.
Okay.
Until our residents, once our residents
it,
go up,
and then it
it's
will
kind of,
just-
they'll
got
try
it.
to build balance each
Okay.
other out. So
Okay.
that's my concern, and that's why we've tried to limit over the years, so we don't have such a big gap.
So essentially, the MSBA said, this is the number that we will do a reimbursement at.
That was the
So
one they had the highest.
figure it out, town, right? So, in other words, so I was listening to the selectmen meeting, and they were talking about the number of 400 students that it's in excess that we're planning or building for,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's a lot.
But that came from the MSBA. That's
Well,
not
I don't know if
from
that-
you or anybody, right?
Yeah, that number wasn't quite accurate, because again, like I said, when we move in, we'll be in 5 classrooms per grade.
Okay.
Our design for each of the grades
Okay.
is 6,
Got
so
it.
we'll have 1 additional classroom. There are a
Okay.
couple bubble. We actually eliminated a few other ones because we said, we're trying to save as much money as
Yeah,
possible now.
of course.
So we're when you look at it, if we go in at 5, we'll have 6 additional classrooms that will be available for the next 50 years to be filled.
Okay.
So
And
it's
that was-
not 20, 30 classrooms, it's 6 in a building.
And that was when you were trying to align the feasibility study with the schematic design. That's when you reduced it by like 30 million. There was things that you cut out
Yes.
or replaced.
Yeah, they
whatever.
pulled out the admin, pulled out
Okay.
pre-K for the septic reason really, and then, as Mark said, there was 2 bubble classrooms that they had in addition that those got reduced as well to try to bring the building into a more appropriate size. And they felt that they didn't need 4 bubble classrooms, so they got rid of 2 of those.
And we reduced some of the small group spaces down. There's a number of them, and I think it was either 25 or 50 square feet per classroom that we reduced. Again, trying to be a cost savings.
You know, sometimes we hear the comment, why do you have to build such an extravagant building? I don't agree with that word at all, except during the process, one of the things that was in one of the reports that we submitted was a field, an athletic field on the Stepping Stone Drive. And the committee got to the point where we were looking at that, because we would have to foot the bill for that entirely, about $2 million. And we said, look, the school staff said it's too far out from the building for us to use during the school day. It's not practical for us to go out there. So the school population wasn't going to use it. The constraints of the site meant that we could only build an under 10 field. We couldn't even build a full-size regulation field. So the committee said, no, let's take this off the table. Let's get rid of it. Let's save $2 million. And to me, that was a piece of extravagance that we didn't need, and the committee recognized that and took it off the table.
Do you happen to know what the combined square footage is with Howard and Roselle right now? I was trying to think what the
It is,
comparison's gonna be.
No, I do know. Or
Just
we have,
roughly.
it's in the statement of interest. I believe one of them it's on the front page of the.
We can get it, stand by.
Yeah,
Talk amongst yourselves.
it's about, one of them's 40,000. No, I'm guessing. I won't guess.
Oh, we don't have internet here.
Oh, no.
I do remember at the meeting.
It's,
I do remember when we were talking about the different sizes and the reimbursement rates, when we were talking about the 1,075 students, they were providing a better reimbursement rate. The reimbursement rate was just a little bit higher. It was almost like they were encouraging.
Oh, there's a lot of factors behind that, I'm sure, you know,
I mean,
driving those numbers.
I'm
Alright, I
trying
got
to
it.
figure out though, where are these? So if we're saying that we have 700 now and, I think you said, did you say 69 of those are school choice?
I think it's like 65.
Six-
But that's, yeah.
700, and if you took out the 65 school choice, and now you're, so now you're at,
If you want, you
and so
can,
you're almost doubling, like, where are we gonna get double the kids that we have
Well,
now?
if you take that out, you're also losing that money, but.
Oh, yeah, but I
But
mean,
we're-
you know,
but,
if you asked a taxpayer, do you wanna lose 400,000 for school choice or pay,
But-
100
right.
100 million,
if-
like, that's.
Right, but when you look at the statistics.
Yeah.
In the next 15 to 20 years, before that, in the next 5 to 10 years, again, with growth, that 8 or so per grade, if we had 2% growth, even, it'll probably be 4 or 5 years, you'll have made up those 8 students in that grade level, and then you'll be adding on to that number.
I know, I'm
So-
just wondering, like, where are all these people gonna live if you're getting 300 or 400 more elementary school kids?
They're all giant houses they're building, so.
I don't know, is it realistic? Maybe it is.
I mean, we're going off the MSBA numbers that they provided to us.
I mean, we went up almost 1,000 in population from 2010 to 2024.
But
And only
What is
whenever I
that
ask, so,
population though?
yeah.
I'm sorry?
Seniors?
Well, no, I mean, the
Yeah,
general population,
right.
but,
Whenever
But
I
obviously-
ask, though, the school population, what, 5 years I've been on this committee, it doesn't really vary more than 5 or 10 kids a year. Like, that's where I'm trying to make sure that it makes sense, right? That where are these kids coming from?
Can you pull up that growth chart again? Do you mind? Just so we could look at that? Please.
The one in mini,
This one here, or?
that one.
The eye chart.
The eye chart.
Hold on a
That is the
second.
lowest line.
Hold on a second. I know, right? Hold on, let me do this.
So just because I found it before,
Oh,
it was in
that's-
there. Roselle McDonald is listed at 39,000 square feet, and the Howard School,
44,427.
What is it again?
44,427.
So
All right.
84,000,
so.
three
don't-
times.
About 85,000, something like that, yeah.
double. It's gonna be double the size roughly.
Is that what we're saying? We're gonna
It's
double
about
size?
150,000 is the new building.
So, pretty close. 100.
Again, the middle senior high school is.
I mean, the schools are
142,000.
crowded, there's no doubt about
Right.
that, yeah.
And it's the design enrollment for the middle senior high school is 625,
Yeah.
for 142,000.
There's a lot that goes into that, the square footage number as well, right? The classrooms are bigger. I think your classrooms are much smaller. In the-
Well, they
the
have to
Roseville,
be.
right? So they have to be bigger because of MSBA standards. You have to have dedicated special ed breakout spaces. There's a
Right.
requirement and there's a count for that.
Right.
Your gym is twice the size. Your cafeteria is bigger. So it's not just that, it's not double so you can fit double the students in there. It's bigger for a lot of different reasons. It gets incrementally bigger when you start increasing all of those bits and pieces as well.
And we're not using our libraries as libraries, they're sub-separate classrooms, or they're subdivided out between 5 or 6 different groups, so.
These are driven by the state, is that right?
It's driven by the
You
MSBA
gotta have a
process.
library, and
Yes.
you gotta have this, and you gotta have that.
If you go on the website, there's what's called an MSBA space summary. It's an Excel sheet. If you open that up, you can put in any student population and it'll spit out what size building that should be. Now, that needs to be refined, and which we did. You go through it and there's a back and forth with the MSBA,
Right.
but it'll give you a rough number of what the MSBA would expect for any student population, how big your building should be. And both of the Howard and the Roselle are below whatever size the MSBA would say. For your current population, they're well below what the building size would be for MSBA standards.
Right.
So what's the growth rate that the MSBA uses? Like which percentage, 1, 1.5, or 2?
So they
Is it that easy
use,
of an answer?
I mean, they use growth rate, they use what's called survival rate of students going from grade to grade. They go for new growth in town. So this is just one portion. The reason we put this together we put this together for the committee a while ago, just to try to understand where you're at. And I think we calculated on the previous slide that your growth rate's somewhere around 1.25% for the past 10 years. So we wanted to show what a 1% looks like, what a 1.5% and a 2%, just so everybody can look at it. For starting at 725, how soon until that building, you're outgrowing that building as well. And so the MSBA uses a lot of different data, and I'm not exactly sure how they do their math, but they do it with, through using DESI, conversations with the district, and then they come up with their enrollment number. Everybody agrees to it, they're certified, and that's the number you have to build to, and that's the way their grant program works.
So it's not an option to build it for, I don't know, 900 students?
Not in this
or,
case.
I don't know,
The backstory of that one.
Pick a number.
I mean, we got into this process with the committee, and
Yeah.
we felt some of the things you're talking
Yeah.
about. Is this really the right number? I
Yeah.
mean, we gave them all our projections for growth in the town, and then they came back with the 1075, and we said, okay. And we had some reservations about that. And we asked for a meeting with them to reevaluate this number. And they politely said, if you don't like that number,
Okay.
You don't have to.
Here's
pay.
You
your
don't-
hat, what's your hurry?
yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Next.
It was worse than bring me the witch's broomstick, so.
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we've cut down some of these spaces.
That's right.
Right.
We don't anticipate, really going to 7. If there's a really odd year, and we would go to 7. Again, we're at 5. Are we going to go to 6? Yeah, I do think we'll go to 6 classrooms at some point. It may not be for 15 years, or it may be in some
What do you
grades
do
in
with that
10.
space in the meantime?
There's a lot of uses for that, yeah. Well, we would definitely find use. I mean, they would be utilized. Again, it's basically one per classroom wing.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give a little insight into why you voted no? I know Cheryl, gave her concerns. Do you mind sharing some of your concerns?
That's fine. Look, the truth of the matter is, it was a vote I didn't want to take. And I've been here for 13 years. I think we've done a really good job. As you mentioned earlier, we put roofs on Howard School and Spring Street. We've done a lot of other infrastructure improvements throughout the entire town. I think progress is important. And so I was pretty enthusiastic about the start when we did this. Earlier on in the process, we looked at multiple different iterations. And there was a pre-K through 4 option that I really liked. And it was $50 million cheaper at that point before you value engineer or whatever. And I thought that checked more boxes. And so, there was a vote. I lost. It's a democracy. And then as we went through the process, eventually 197 million. I know, Sean, you're looking it up. It was 197 versus 150 was the pre-K through 4. That's the $48 million. But that was before you value engineered. So if you value engineer one, you should be able to do it for the other. I don't know what the percentages are, but whatever. But as town administrator, I really mean this. I look at every department as like a child, right? They all come in different sizes and shapes and all that stuff, but you have to love all of them. And so what can we do here? I think it's important that we do something. The selectmen said it last night. I wholeheartedly agree. I think there does have to be a replacement at Roselle. That's why I like the pre-K through 4 option. I like the idea that we could consolidate Spring and Roselle. It would be cheaper. We could put that on. Yes, we would still have 5 and 6 at Howard, but I thought it checked more boxes, and it did it at a less expensive rate. Since then, as Cheryl alluded to earlier, we have a water department. You have bonded $20 million in water treatment plants. It's not a secret. You've been at town meeting the last 2 years. You know that. That hasn't hit your water bills yet.
Right.
Selectmen just signed that bond bill 2 months ago. I'm sorry, 2 meetings ago, 1 month ago. So I really tried my best not to offer a lot of opinions, because there are plenty of opinions that I have, but I really just focused just on the financial aspect of it. And I realize that we do have to do something with Roselle. That's why I like that other option. I also realize that there will be a financial constraint on a lot of people in town. And I have not publicly said a lot about my opinion, because I really mean this. As town administrator, I am not a resident. I'm not a taxpayer. I'm not paying for it. I don't think it's really fair for me to express a lot of opinion, but to really just stay on the budget aspect of it. And so that's what I've attempted to do. And I've said to everybody, you were at the COA the other day, I didn't express a lot, but I said what I'm saying now. Nothing's different. And I just said, if you want to meet with me, meet with me. Like, I'll talk to you one-on-one. But that was really the reason. 23% of our population are seniors, and I recognize that, I'm sensitive to that population, as I am to the people who need the new school. And I don't know how it all works. So that's how I voted, and why I voted that way.
Thank you. I know we just put in cameras, and we did a couple roofs, and, we have tried to keep it. We did the smart boards. We have tried to invest in the schools over time. That didn't make them bigger. It is difficult, because we do have to balance for everybody who's trying to afford it. And I'm myself a little bit concerned about pushing people out of town who can't afford the taxes. I don't know. This is really a tough decision, because everybody wants what's best for the children. They want a good school for them to learn in, and a great place for the teachers to work. I come from a family full of teachers and, surrounding towns, and I understand they talk a lot about the stresses that they're under and the challenges that they face from a lot of different perspectives. So I'm very sensitive to that. But it is a very difficult. We are a finance committee, so we look at the money, and it's not always easy, and it's not always popular. But anybody have any other
I
questions?
have a question
for this
on
committee?
the average tax impact for the middle senior high school. I could have sworn one of the big selling points of the middle senior high school was that the average tax impact for a residential homeowner was minor, under the 2.5%, if I am not mistaken.
$600.
$600.
Wasn't it and then it ended up coming in less.
I thought it came in under $300, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong.
We estimated high. We didn't estimate high. I know that the actual number came in lower.
That was one of the big selling points at the time.
How
I'm
did
just
we
looking
do-
at the
how did
tax
we bond that
calculator
much at that rate?
for my own property, and it's like almost $1,500.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot.
how does that work with Proposition 2.5? And are we gonna have to take a vote across the town to increase taxes on everybody too? Or is this just a
No,
vote?
it's a special vote. We
So
can
it's a
vote for the
special
school,
vote,
it
dedicated
doesn't-
increases
it's not
everybody's
tied to
taxes.
It's
two
an
and a half.
override.
Up 2.5.
It's an override.
So I just want to make sure, I'll explain it. So Gary's entirely right. So this is what they call a debt exclusion. So there's two different, on Proposition 2.5, there's two different types of Proposition 2.5 votes that you can take. One is an override, which stays on your tax roll forever
Mhm.
and goes usually for operations which you must spell out at the time of the vote. A debt exclusion, you identify the specific item that you're paying for, which in this case is the school. It only stays on for the duration of the loan, and it is above and beyond your 2.5% cap, and that's why it's called a debt exclusion. So you will still have your 2.5% raise every year, if you want to call it that, and then above and beyond that is this additional money that will be bonded, and that's why it's called excluded debt.
So the tax calculator that's on the website
Yes.
is gonna be automatic every year plus a 2.5%?
It will be automatic every year, plus whatever you raise at town meeting that does affect your pay. So yes.
Potentially 2.5.
Potentially.
1,000%, yes.
But your comparison to the middle senior high school, we did the same thing. It was the same process.
Yep.
And it had the same
Just a
different
lot.
numbers, because it was 63
Yeah.
million, not
Lot different rate,
97
yes.
million.
Yeah, understood.
But, yeah.
And how many years do we have left on the other school? Do you recall?
It's quite a few.
10?
2015, it was 30 years, so
Oh.
2045.
So 600 to 1,500 doesn't seem to jive, does it? You know, if it was only 1,600
$1,500 is the minimum.
for the
Well,
high school, right?
Significantly less.
No, that's what my.
Depends
tax
on your
calculator- I don't know
Yeah,
what the
but
average
now
is.
it's gonna,
The average back then, again, my wife was on the building school committee,
Yeah.
the building school, or whatever you guys call it. The high school building. And I remember one of her big selling points to me, because I was not for it. I was not for, like, let's increase my taxes. And she sold me on it because it was a lot lower rate. It was a lot less money than I thought it would be for the building of the school.
So,
Is he referring to the pay down that was done?
no.
Dave?
No,
So
I'm
I
referring
think
to just
back
the
in the
average.
envelope, it was in 2012, so it was the year before I got here.
Yeah,
But back in the envelope math, you're financing $97 million.
yeah.
In your case, it's 1,500. You're financing $32 million on the school, because even though it was 63, you got your reimbursed at 32.
Right.
That's cut it by 2/3, so that means 1,500 to 500.
Yep.
So that's probably pretty close
Pretty close.
to what
Pretty
you were
close to what
discussing.
you think,
there.
there it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, okay.
That was a debt exclusion too.
1,000%.
Yeah, yeah. So property values go up, it's gonna go up.
We build a school, our property values are gonna go up too. And then my
Which-
taxes go up again.
Assessments,
Yeah,
yeah.
the base taxes,
Yeah.
not including this,
Right,
yes,
right.
correct.
It is what it is.
Well,
Other
one of the
questions?
things tonight was, for us and the public at large, and I
Yeah.
think we addressed a lot of
Yeah,
concerns, and in the end, people will vote, with all the information they can. You've
So-
certainly given us everything we can get.
yeah, and it's a very thoughtful, I feel like you guys, it's a thoughtful process, it's a thoughtful design.
Well, I
don't
mean,
think there's any-
that's the, thanks to the design team for their
Yeah.
work and the school building committee. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big group, but I think that's the right move in terms of all the vested interests there at the table.
Yeah,
And they've put in a lot of time over the last 2.5 years to get to where we are. And
Yeah,
you're right, it's
you-
up
you
to the
can-
townspeople at this point.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
see that, I mean, you
Yeah.
can see there was a lot of, thought going into it.
So just to be clear, so you'd like us to come back on the 27th?
I don't think
I
so,
don't think
right?
so.
Oh, okay, with that.
We just.
They want the information on the,
Oh,
on
you
the
want the
90 on the
information.
renovation.
Before we meet on the 27th. So the
Okay.
27th, I think we're going to just discuss it as a committee. We'll use that information that you bring and what you've presented tonight to make whether, this committee would recommend it to the town or not. The usual process in terms of how we do the budgets. We're just a committee that either recommends or doesn't. We don't really have other than our individual votes.
I
as
guess if we have
taxpayers.
any questions, we'll reach out.
Yeah, we can
Right,
reach out to
absolutely.
You guys have been very responsive.
Yeah, and I do appreciate all the time and effort, and I understand that you having to present this a lot of times, and I appreciate that. And I know we're gonna do a walkthrough, which I think will be
Yes.
very helpful helpful, and I think you're doing a walkthrough for just the town at large?
The town at large will be the following night, so Thursday, and just so it's clear if people watching, so that gives people the opportunity, they won't travel as a group like we will with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and the school committee.
Okay.
They can show up at a school at 5 o'clock, and they'll do a 30-minute tour of whatever school they're at. We'll have representatives from the school and our building committee there.
Okay.
And then there's 10-minute travel time to get to another school. I would recommend not going on Route 106, because you not make it. But then you could go to another school, and that will start at 5:40 to 6:10.
Okay.
10-minute travel time. Because I do think it's important for them, people, if they're interested, to see
Yeah.
all 3 schools, including Spring Street, although we're not doing anything,
Yeah.
but just so they can hear what the improvements may be and get to see it, especially if they haven't seen it.
And what night is that again, I'm
That
sorry?
is the 15th.
The 15th.
Thursday, the 15th, starting at
Okay.
5 o'clock, but people can come at any different time. And I'll repost that information out there on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
That's
to
a
people.
wonderful opportunity for people to come and really see what's going
Sure.
on.
Yeah, and understand what we have now, because a lot of people have never probably been in the schools. So I think that's really helpful, and I appreciate that you guys are doing that, and I appreciate that you're gonna take us on a tour as well, and hoping folks can make it
Yeah.
here.
Well,
I think it's
thank you
next
for your
Thursday.
thoughtful questions. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you very
No,
much for
we
your time.
really do
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Be careful on the wire there.
I know.
Yeah.
No falling, we'd have no insurance.
Oh, we
Cut it back.
certainly do have insurance.
When does Mitch say his computer?
I think, I know, right? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you again.
Thanks so much.
See you
Stay
later.
safe out there.
Yep,
Take care.
it's good to meet you.
Are you forgetting your iPad there?
No, that's ours.
Oh, that's ours, okay.
Mitch, is that your attachment?
No, that was here.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a great night.
Have a good night. I think we have a couple more things on the agenda. Approving the meeting minutes of April 21st. So do I have a motion for that?
Motion to approve.
Moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second was Mo.
oh, was Mo, okay, and Scott moved, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, and then accept the meeting minutes of October 16th for review.
Motion to accept.
Moved Chris, and then second was Scott, I think.
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, so that's those 2 housekeeping things. Anything else? I guess, when was our walkthrough? I had my list.
The 14th.
The 14th, I believe.
The 14th.
Next Wednesday, the
Okay.
14th.
Next Wednesday, the 14th.
Yeah.
If anybody on the committee wants to walk through, we can meet at the Roselle
Correct.
at 6 PM.
That is correct.
Okay.
Excuse me.
14th,
Be there, be
6
square.
PM. Or if you can't make it that night, you can go on the 15th with the rest of the town folks that decide to go. But we get our own tour. I think that's it. Motion to adjourn?
Moved. Second.
Thank you, Sue and Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Ben, we're out. Thank you so much.